Hi there, Scott ROCKFILE, back with another podcast review for you. Going to talk about the 2021 film, Mad God. If you know anything about movie special effects, Phil Tippett is one of the biggest names in special effects. He did like Jurassic Park, to say the least. And when he was making Jurassic Park, he saw the writing on the wall that stop-motion animation was not going to be needed anymore. You know, that stuff that we used to watch as kids, the Ray Harryhausen movies, where they film, an arm moving just a little bit, boop, and take a picture, and then move it a little bit more and take a picture. It takes years to make stop-motion animation films. In modern times, Leica Animation makes stop-motion animation films, and they're incredible. Coraline, the Box Trolls, Kubo and the Two Strings. These are all incredibly artistic, handmade films. If you remember Wallace and Gromit, they were all handmade stop-motion animation films, and the reason why there's been a big break is there was a huge fire, and they lost all of their stuff. And they really it was hard to rebuild. They've started making some other stuff. But anyway, so Phil Tippett had this idea 30 years ago to make this movie, Mad God. And he did it. He worked on it here and there after Jurassic Park. And then a few years ago, people in his studio and stuff encouraged him, and he put it up on Kickstarter and got some money. So the movie has a $150,000 budget. It's made over $320,000, and that's before its home video release earlier this year, late last year. Yeah, late last year. It originally came out in 2021. It was on Shudder. It won some awards. Then it was on Shudder last year, won some more awards. And then it got a home video release in the fall. I finally picked up a copy recently because everybody says it's just one of those movies you need to see. So let me get to the quick part of it if you're thinking about watching this movie. It's stop-motion animation, the most detailed thing you've ever seen. It is spectacular. If you're into the art of stop-motion animation, then this is a must-see. It is dark, depressing, the likes of which you've probably never seen. It's violent. Nothing good happens. Well, there's like one scene in the middle where something good happens and then it doesn't end well for the people, the things. And I won't get into any spoilers until the end of the review. Needless to say, it doesn't have much dialogue, if any, in the entire film. It is under 90 minutes, and it's the story of a character credited as the assassin who lowers into a hellish world by a bathysphere, a long tubular one, and he's dropped off with a map and a suitcase. And he sees weird things happening, bad things happening, and he turns a blind eye to go to wherever he's supposed to go. And then something happens to him, and then the movie changes, and then it all kind of happens again. And it's like I said, I don't want to get into spoilers. If you're into science fiction, if you're into horror, if you're into fantasy, it is an amazing tour de force of Phil Tippett's handmade. There's so much detail in it. There's times you forget that it's stop-motion animation. There's a few scenes with some real people, some real actors dressed up, made up to fit into the scene, and it works fine. But the vast majority of it is handmade miniatures and sets and stuff, and it's jaw-dropping in its artistry. I mean, like I said, if you can handle and stomach, it is very dark, it's depressing, and it's gory. If you can stomach all that, you'll see the art of it, because it doesn't really have a happy ending either. And we'll get into the spoilers of it in just a while. That being said, if this sounds like your cup of tea, it's a really interesting, surreal trip through this hellish world. And it made me read up on why. Why did he make this? Why was this important? What is it really trying to say? And once I read some of that, there's a biblical origin to all of this at the beginning. And so that kind of guides how things play out in the film. It definitely wasn't what I expected. Then again, it kind of was in some ways. People prepared me for it, but it's one I'm glad I own. I'd watch it again just to see the artistry now after the shock of watching it is over. It's gory. It's depressing. There are creatures everywhere. It's not humans that most of this stuff happens to, but they're disemboweled and disembodied and chopped up and killed and crushed and squished. And it's literally hell. I mean, it's pretty rough, but the artistry to make all of this imagery and make it happen and make it look real, I can't even imagine. So hopefully this spurs on and continues a love affair with this. I mean, like I said, if you've watched any of the Leica animation movies, Coraline is an incredible work of art tour de force of stop-motion animation. This is the other end of the spectrum. This is a really dark, adult, twisted, rated R, So anyway, we'll get into a few spoilers here. If you want to see it, it's streaming on Shudder, I think, still. I'm not suggesting you buy a copy unless you really like it. It does come in a cool steelbook, though. That's the only way to get it right now. So, going to talk about some spoilers in 3, 2, and 1. Bye-bye. At the beginning, it basically shows you the Tower of Babel and puts up a Leviticus chapter, where basically God is saying he's going to destroy the earth and it's going to be desolation and horrors and all that because, well, we didn't listen. And that's what plays out in the movie. That's why the movie's called Mad God. Mad God is not only destroying the world, he is punishing the world per the Bible. And that's how it plays out. I won't get into the hardcore spoilers of how it ends and such, but that's the storyline. So it's a totally not wonderful story, but it has a point and it has a purpose. And there have been other movies like this one. I would say it compares a lot to Darren Aronofsky's Mother. Told in a different way, but it's the same kind of story of if we don't get it right this time, we have to start over. And that's kind of what happens towards the end of this film, that you kind of see the whole events of the film kind of start over because it's cyclical and it keeps happening and it's a spiral. And that's kind of what the assassin's mission is to stop that. But that would stop everything, wouldn't it? And this also, no spoilers, but kind of goes back to what the crux of the main overall arcing plot in the 12 Monkeys TV series was, that somebody was trying to just end everything. That would fix everything if we just stopped everything, right? So definitely not an uplifting piece, but again, the stop-motion animation is more than worth taking this hellish ride through a hellish earth. It's jaw-dropping in its scope that he did this by hand. And when you start watching the extras, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes interview stuff, and you see how small some of the stuff really was. He could hold it in his hand when they were making it. Totally impressed by the art of it, and I will watch it again. I just have to be prepared for it, like have a comedy ready for it after or something. But it is totally a work of art, and I'm glad it's in this is one of those movies I look for because it sticks with you. All of this hellish imagery, the story of it sticks with you. And so I dig that. Maybe not in the best way, but still, it gives me some intellectual food. Oh, so anyway, I was checking some reviews, and it's like 92% Rotten Tomatoes. Almost everybody thought this is a work of art, regardless of how much you like the storyline or whatever. Somebody at IGN was like, there's not really a plot. Well, guess you just didn't look deep enough, because there definitely is. Anyway, I've got more upcoming reviews of some things. Let's see. I tried to watch the first season of Van Helsing, that Sci-Fi Channel show. Tell you more about that. That'll be an interesting review. Also finally got a copy of Zissou from the makers of John Wick. I've been looking forward to seeing this and reviewing it, and I'll be watching that in the next couple of days. A few other things, too. Oh, yeah, I finished Final Fantasy VII Remake, which is a game up until recently I didn't even know existed, and really had a blast with it. I'll be doing a review of that, too. So, more to come on ROCKFILE's podcast. Thank you so much for listening. My links are below. Have a spectacular day.